New tonight, they fought for changes after the crash of Flight 3407 near Buffalo. Now they're worried some of those safety measures could be grounded.
From a 3407 family standpoint, what we don't want is other families to go through what we did.
The U.S. Senate confirming Brian Bedford's nomination to serve as FAA administrator earlier today. Good evening. I'm Matt Malloy.
I'm Karen Edwards. Critics say as an airline executive, he tried to skirt pilot training standards brought about in the wake of the devastating plane crash in Clarence.
13 WHAM's Daniel Finkelstein has more on the confirmation and those concerned about the future of those training standards. Daniel, good evening.
Well, good evening, Matt and Karen. The families of Flight 3407 pushed for the 1,500-hour rule after that crash more than 16 years ago. Pilots are required to have that much experience in the cockpit before flying for a commercial airline. Now the families are worried Bedford might try to change that rule. Ron Aughtmon remembers his uncle, John Fiore, who died in the crash of Flight 3407. Fiore, a 30-year military veteran, whose nephew remembers him as good-hearted.
It was a huge loss for our family. He was a person that would just help anybody out. And when there was a fight that needed to be fought, he would be the first one in line trying to do what's right.
That tremendous loss among dozens of others, sparking advocacy from those left behind. The families of Flight 3407 eventually helping pass the 1,500-hour rule for pilots in training.
There's been no crash up until the D.C. crash. That was the longest period of aviation safety in U.S. history.
Aughtmon now worries about the future of that rule. He remembers this moment, watching senators interview the president's pick to lead the FAA nearly 1 month ago.
Mr. Bedford, will you commit to not reducing the number of flight hours currently required for pilots?
I don't think we actually have a lot of gap between where we're at. We both want to have the safest pilots operating our aircraft, correct?
Yes, but you're not answering me. I mean, reclaiming my time, it doesn't sound like a yes. It sounds like you're leaving the door open to reduce the number of flight hours from...
Critics questioning Bedford's record. During his time as CEO of Republic Airways, the FAA denied the company's request for an exemption to the 1,500-hour rule, calling for 750 hours instead if pilots met certain other requirements.
He was asked 4 times by Tammy Duckworth and would refuse to come out with those words. He skirted around the issue.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying this prior to the confirmation vote passing Wednesday.
Confirming Mr. Bedford would be an insult to the families of Flight 3407 and the memory of their loved ones.
Aughtmon says he and the families of Flight 3407 will continue advocating for safety.
With all the near misses that have taken place over the last number of years, now is not the time to take a step backwards in safety.
Families of the victims of Flight 3407 also met with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who they say told them there are no plans to change the 1,500-hour training rule. Karen and Matt, back to you.